What's up, YouTube? It has been forever, and for that I apologize, but I am so excited to be back, and I'm going to take things in a slightly different direction today, and let's focus on one diagnosis that so many of us have to deal with on a regular basis, and that is warts. And more importantly, how do you get rid of them? Before we get there, let's start by talking about what a wart actually is. A wart is actually an infection of the skin. So if you have a wart, what that means is that you got a little bit of a virus that got stuck into your skin, and that virus is called HPV, or human papillomavirus. As you can tell, that wart is probably getting a little bit bigger, a little bit crusty, and just kind of getting bumpy around the skin. And that's because that virus is trying to wall itself off so that it can protect itself and live in your skin as long as possible. If you took a little piece of skin and then put it under the microscope, what we would see is that you can see what are called viral changes in the skin. So you can tell that there's been a virus there. And you can also see that that top layer of skin starts to get bigger and bigger, something that we call hyperkeratosis and hypergranulosis. Big fancy words to just say that the skin is getting thicker because of that virus there. All right, but you came here to see how to get rid of a wart. So let's talk about how to get rid of it. First of all, 2/3 of all warts go away on their own. And so what that means is that you might spend tons of money buying wart removal stuff, and maybe if you hadn't done anything, it would have gone away on its own. Now that said, if you do want to do something about it, let's talk about what those options are. If you haven't seen a doctor yet, most likely you're gonna look at your pharmacy drugstore and see what your options are. And at the end of the day, all those options do the same thing, which is one, it removes some of those cells that have wart virus in them. So it gets rid of them, it almost kills some cells to get rid of it, but more importantly, it makes your immune system fight the wart, fight the infection itself. And it does that by making your skin a little bit irritated. Things like the over-the-counter freeze, the salicylic acid, all that stuff is actually really, really helpful to irritate your skin and make your immune system come and fight off that virus. You can try anything that's over the counter, but from my perspective, what I think is the most helpful is the stuff that you will not forget to do all the time. That's why there's these salicylic acid pads that come on a sticker, and if you stick it on the wart, you can just kind of forget about it and it's always being treated. Even some home remedies can be done too. So I've seen people do apple cider vinegar, I've seen people use duct tape, but ultimately all that everyone's doing is trying to irritate the wart so that the immune system can come fight it. But then you might say, well, everything I've done isn't really working. It might soften it up a little bit, but then all of a sudden it just comes right back. That's where if you're really dedicated and you really want to get rid of it, you might want to see your primary care doctor or a dermatologist to help you get rid of that wart. So what would I do in the office? Well, I have a spray, liquid nitrogen, that gets way colder than the spray that you can use over the counter. The spray that I can use on you gets all the way down to negative 320 degrees Fahrenheit, something that you should not be playing around with unless you've been taught how to do it. So what I can do is freeze that wart with this super, super cold spray. I'm not gonna lie, it hurts when it goes on. It blisters up, the top falls off, and then that inflammation, that irritation that we are causing will make your immune system come fight it off. There's some other things that I can do, and some of them sound a little bit crazy. For example, I can actually take a purified protein from yeast, basically taking a part from yeast and inject it into your wart. And the reason that works, as you might have guessed, is that it makes your immune system recognize that there's something foreign, something that shouldn't be there, and come fight off that protein, but in the process, potentially fight off the virus as well. There's other things like prescription strength antiviral medication. There's also chemotherapy that we can inject into the wart. At the end of the day, we're trying to either destroy the wart virus or make your immune system come fight it itself. All of these things can be kind of painful and can be really annoying. And also, it might take longer than one visit. A lot of my wart patients have to come back month after month because we make progress, but it's hard to get rid of a wart just in one session. At this point, we've talked about how you could potentially treat a wart at home. We've talked about what I, as a dermatologist, might do for your wart if you come to see me. And then here's the question, should you even bother? Since 2/3 of warts go away on their own, you could just always wait and see. But of course, if they linger around forever and ever, or if they start to get bigger and bigger, or if you have a ton of warts, it might be worth seeing a doctor. because that usually doesn't happen, and when it does, it might be a sign that something else is going on, like your immune system might need some help. All right, and then the last thing we haven't talked about yet is prevention. So since warts are caused by a virus, it's important to avoid that virus if you can. The place where people usually get infected is by themselves. So a lot of people will go out and buy a file and then try to smooth out that wart because it's all bumpy and annoying. But the problem with doing that is now that file might have virus on it. So if you use it anywhere else that you have normal skin, you could be transferring that virus over to the normal skin. So I tell all my patients, if you have a wart file, make sure you have a normal skin file or a nail file as well, and don't get them mixed up. Even better, if you use a file to file down a wart, throw it away before you reach for another one. The other thing is, try not to touch another person's wart. Now, in all honesty, casual contact, let's say you shake hands with someone who has a wart on their hand, probably not gonna move the virus around. But that said, if you really wanna be careful, just don't come into contact with them. And people who do have warts, hopefully will keep them covered up before they let other people come into contact with them themselves. All right, that's all I was gonna cover today about warts. I'm hoping that maybe you got something helpful in this little clip today, but importantly, remember, most warts go away. If you wanna treat it, do this stuff over the counter. You can even use duct tape, some vinegar, but the point is to create some irritation, some inflammation so your immune system can come fight it. And of course, if you're bothered, or if it's getting super big, or if you have a ton of them, come see a doctor so that we can help and maybe make sure that nothing else is going on. Thanks for joining today. It's great to be back, and hopefully I'll be back again real soon.